Hi, I'm Edward Funk, and this is podcast number 50. Um, I love these now. You can get it as a recorded book. So, the title for today is Randolph Hearst's Sons Enter the Picture, and Loretta Young. It's really Joan Crawford is madly jealous of Loretta Young, so you'll surely find out why. Okay. Now, Loretta Young's mother, Gladys, quietly began procedure to divorce Earl Young, their father, and she started dating again. Before George Belzer, there were a couple of other men who took Gladys out. One was a Mr. Cruz. He had possibilities until he shared his dream of being a rancher. Gladys did not envision herself or her daughters as cowgirls on the range. The girls, too, were making new acquaintances. Polly Ann and Sally became good friends with a neighbor girl their age by the name of Josephine Sanz. Her mother was of French origin, her father Spanish. He had been a physician surgeon and then joined the United States Diplomatic Corps. First he was a consul to Cuba and eventually to Panama. Now, Josephine, called Josie by friends and family, she had sparkling brown eyes, smooth dark hair, and flawless skin. John Wayne loomed in her future. Now, looking towards her daughter's future, Gladys enrolled them in the Sacred Heart Academy, a boarding school in nearby Alhambra, operated by Dominican sisters. Now, Loretta was 8. The mostly German nuns had a penchant for modesty and made the girls take a bath in 3 inches of lukewarm water under a sheet. They also were big on cleaning and kitchen duties. Summer didn't come quick enough for Loretta and her sisters. Now, the young girls did not return to Sacred Heart, and at midterm the following school year, they were enrolled at Ramona Convent School, another Catholic school located in Alhambra, another boarding school. Now, operated by French nuns, it offered more of what Gladys had in mind for her daughters. Sally recalled, at Ramona, you learned how to sew and embroider and how to model fruit. It wasn't the policy for the nuns to allow students to attend on credit, but they made an exception for the young girls. But what I forgot to mention, they weren't waiting on people at Ramona, they were waited upon. So a whole kind of different experience. Okay. Now, Loretta enjoyed Ramona, but it was still school. And she hated that part of it. She called it, if I could have spelled, I would have enjoyed school. But if you can't do something and you keep pushing on it and you're butting your head on a stone wall, I just thought it was dumb. But it didn't make any difference since I knew I was going to be a movie star. And I didn't think I was dumb in anything except in the schoolroom. I knew that I was always a pleasing child, very pliable and wanting to please. Now, the Ramona experience lasted just 1 year from January to January, interspersed with the summer break. Shortly after coming home, they were in for a big surprise. Gladys and her boarder, George Belzer, had been married in Santa Ana, California, by a justice of the peace. Someone told the girls that after that afternoon about the marriage, and Loretta recalled, we kids decorated Mama's bed by draping flowers all over it. So we knew that marriage had something to do with the bed. I'm going to take a little preview here and say when she grew up, she was beautiful. She was a model. when she became Mrs. Ricardo Montalban. But that's way in the future. Okay. When Pollyann was 17 and Sally was 15, they attended the Saturday afternoon tea dances at the Coconut Grove, which was located in the Ambassador Hotel. Sally recalled those afternoons. We each paid $2.50, for which we got a tall drink of tea and a pastry. We would all come single, and there would be 12 girls at a huge round table. Of course, the guys would be there, and some looking for the prettiest girl, but others were trying to figure out who was the best dancer because they wanted to win the cup, which was given away every Saturday. And a little detour here, they often chose Sally because she was the best dancer. She won that cup time after time, and then she would sell the cup back to the Ambassador Hotel for $15, and that would she'd take that home, and her mother could buy new patterns of material and make her new clothes. So that's a little detour there. Now, Jack and Bill Hearst, sons of William Randolph Hearst, were smitten by the older Young sisters. Bill set his sights on Pollyann, and Jack was in love with Sally. Jack Hearst had a motorcycle, and Sally loved cruising around Los Angeles with her hands around his waist. In their youthful exuberance, they became secretly engaged, but just for a brief time. An opportunity arose to work in movies when it was through dancing at the Coconut Grove. Sally explained, Milton Bren, he eventually married Claire Trevor. He was a darling boy who also came to the Saturday afternoon dances. He was the second assistant director on a picture at MGM, and the director complained that the extras hired as young dancers were dull. Now, Milton Berle was listening, and he said, I can get a whole gang. Milton called us. We all went to the studio, and each of us got $7.50 a day. We danced before the cameras rolled, and after the camera rolls, we just kept on dancing. Sally had struck up a friendship from a girl from Texas, 2 years older than she was, who's an up-and-coming actress at MGM. Her name was Joan Crawford. She was already a leading lady, but not yet a star. Sally described the relationship. I was Joan's lackey. I just was. I'd go to her apartment to do her hair all the time because she had it permanent and it frizzled, and I would unfrizz it. In return, she'd give me all kinds of dresses and stuff to make up. Through Joan, Sally got work at Universal's Collegiate Pictures and was able to bring Pollyann along as well. They worked at Universal for a year. This is more, college kids dancing. Before Sally was rediscovered again. She was asked to come to Paramount for a screen test, and she got a contract. Now, Sally was making $50 a week. Now, this is a lot of money because we're talking about, maybe 1920 at the earliest. $50 a week as a Paramount stock girl at age 15, considerably more than her stepfather, George Belzer, was earning as a bookkeeper. She also assumed the debt Gladys owned Ramona Convent and would go to the school to make the payments. Sally remembered. The nuns were absolutely shocked when I went over there wearing the makeup from the studio. Sally's career was in full gear, but she managed to maintain a very active social life. Now, Gladys no longer needed to operate a large boarding house, and the family moved into a smaller house on Fifth Street. She encouraged the home to be the social hub for her daughters. So in addition to the young sisters, Josephine Sands and Jane Mullen, the friend Loretta had made at Ramona, helped attract the waves of young men that came passing through. Loretta, too, got her share of attention, much to the chagrin of Joan Crawford. Now, Dorothy Manners, she was another girl from Texas who attended the Saturday afternoon tea dances at the Coconut Grove, and who would eventually become a major Hollywood columnist. She recalled, "I got a call from Joan Crawford one evening. 'Dorothy, this is Joan. Guess what happened? We have to take Loretta to the tea dance on Saturday.'" Dorothy Manners' memories continued. "When we picked up the young girls, Loretta was such a beauty, it was embarrassing. She was wearing a floppy hat with a rose on it. When we got to the Ambassador Hotel, all the stags made a rush for Loretta, and Joan was furious. Because the usual pattern was that Joan held forth at our table, and all of us other girls were like lady in waiting. After we yet let the young girls off at home, Joan said, 'Well, that's the last time Loretta is ever going to come with us. I don't care if it breaks up my friendship with Pollyann, it's out.'" Now, it was a different story at school. Loretta still didn't understand that she was dyslexic, and so she just behaved as well as she could, hoping not to call attention to herself. However, this exemplary behavior kind of backfired. A teacher said, "Now, this class is rowdy, and I don't want any more of it. We're going to have spelling in about 20 minutes, and whoever in the room has behaved the best will be allowed to give out the spelling words." 20 minutes went by, and I heard her say, this is Loretta talking, "Loretta, you may come up and give out the spelling words." I went cold because I couldn't read them. I just looked at her, and she repeated my name again. I had to get up there, and everybody was looking at me. As I went up, I thought, well, I just can't stand here. So I said softly to the teacher, "I can't read them." She said, "Sit down right next to me, Loretta, because I don't want to have to hurt my neck." She moved over her chair, and she whispered each word to me. From that moment on, I adored the ground that woman walked on. Now, Pollyann was already dating college men. One day, while working on location at Southern California University, SCU, as a stand-in for the college widow, she met a football player named Ian Morrison, who eventually would change his name to John Wayne. Now, shortly thereafter, she was his first date at a fraternity function after he pledged Sigma Chi. Later on, he would start dating Josie Sands, Pollyan's childhood friend. Now, Pollyann also did stand-in work for Joan Crawford, so she'd be made up like Joan and wearing Joe's clothes. She'd often pose for billboard art that promoted Joan Crawford movies. The casting director thought of Pollyann when Clarence Brown, the director, was preparing to shoot an MGM picture in Colorado. Now, the leading lady would either be Dolores Costello or Joan Crawford. It was still undecided. So in the interim, Pollyann was hired to go to Denver to do the long shots. At the same time, Mervyn LeRoy, who served as a casting director at First National, called Pollyann at home. There was a bit part as one of 5 girls in a boarding school in the Colleen Moore comedy, Naughty But Nice. Pollyann recalled, Mervyn LeRoy had given me so much work, and I didn't want to say no, but this picture in Colorado was coming up in about 2 weeks. I said, "Oh, Mom, what will I do?" She said, "Well, call Mervyn back and ask him if he can use Loretta instead." So I did, and then I went on to Colorado to do the picture for Metro. Now, Mervyn did call back for Loretta, and Loretta recalled. He asked if I wanted to come to First National for an interview, and I added, and then he added, just ask for Mervyn Leroy, who's working with Colleen Moore. So I said, fine. I went and told Mom all about it. She said, well, honey, if you want to do it, I'll give you the money for the fare, but you'll have to go alone. I'm not going to transfer on the bus 3 times to go out to First National Studios. So 13-year-old Loretta did go, and although she did have to transfer 3 times that day to get to Burbank, she had no idea what a fast trip she was taking.